The Enzeri fleet cruised silently through the cold void of space, their sleek ships cutting through the darkness with ease. It had been a peaceful journey until now. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship, tearing through the calm like a thunderclap. The crew scrambled, confusion and panic flooding the control deck. The ship's sensors went haywire, blinking warnings of unknown signatures. Something was here, something that shouldn't be. The captain of the Enzeri ship, a seasoned veteran named Zoreth, stood frozen in disbelief. His eyes flicked across the holographic display, searching for any sign of the threat. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. A single human battleship, glowing with an almost unnatural light, was entering their space. It wasn't just any ship. It was a human ship, a species they had written off as weak, primitive, and insignificant. The galaxy had long since believed that no one could survive in the most dangerous parts of space, the Deathworlds where only the toughest species could exist. Yet here it was, a human battleship, seemingly alive with energy, slipping unnoticed into their territory. Zorath's hands clenched into fists, his mind racing. It was impossible. How could humans, fragile, weak creatures, be here? How could they have survived in this part of the galaxy? No species, not even the Enzeri themselves, had dared enter this far. The Enzeri had always thought they were the only true Deathworlders, capable of thriving where others perished. But this was something different. With a sharp command, Zoreth turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the fleet. Prepare for immediate combat. We can't let this human ship get any closer." The fleet responded with haste, their ships surrounding the glowing human vessel, ready to crush what they thought was a foolish intrusion. But then, just as the Enzeri began their offensive, something strange happened. A ripple of energy passed through the space around them. The human ships, they were disappearing. One by one, they'd vanished from sight, as if they were ghosts in the darkness. The Enzeri couldn't track them, couldn't see them. The humans had somehow activated advanced cloaking technology, making their ships invisible to every detection method the Enzeri had. The panic grew. Zoreth barked orders, his voice filled with urgency. "Deploy all fighters. We can't let them escape. Find them. Destroy them." The battle began, fierce and chaotic. The Enzeri fleet launched wave after wave of attack ships, but the human fleet was elusive. Ships darted in and out of the darkness, firing precise blasts that tore through the alien defenses. It was like fighting ghosts. No matter how many Enzeri ships they sent, the humans struck with deadly accuracy, taking out the attackers one by one. Their fighters moved like shadows, their weapons fast and lethal. Zoreth watched in disbelief as more and more of his fleet were destroyed. The Enzeri were the greatest military force in the galaxy. Yet here, in the Black Void, they were outmatched by humans, a species they had once considered a minor nuisance. Zoreth's eyes narrowed. He couldn't allow this to continue. With a quick order, he activated the ship's full arsenal, launching everything he had in a desperate attempt to wipe the humans from existence. All ships, fire at will. Just as the last of the Enzeri's elite attack ships were launched, a flash of light exploded through the void, blinding Zoreth's view. He shielded his eyes as the shockwave ripped through the darkness, and for a brief moment, he felt a strange stillness settle over him. Then, reality returned. The screen in front of him flickered, and he stared in horror as the image came into focus. The human ship, the source of that devastating flash of light, had fired a single shot. It had cut through the entire Enzeri formation, leaving nothing but debris in its wake. The once mighty fleet of Zoreth's elite soldiers was gone, wiped out in an instant. The commander's heart pounded in his chest as the realization hit him. These humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in a way no one had ever seen before. Zoreth's hands trembled as he struggled to process the events unfolding before him. He had ordered the destruction of a species he thought was no threat, but now it seemed they were facing something beyond their understanding. These humans were far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. A cold sweat dripped down his face as he made one final command, a desperate attempt to regain control. Retreat. Retreat now. But it was too late. The humans had already won. The screen cut to black, leaving behind a silence that felt as heavy as the galaxy itself. The Nzeri had underestimated humanity, and it would be a mistake they would not live long enough to regret. Bonner adjusted his helmet, feeling the familiar weight of his gear as he led his squad through the alien landscape. The planet they were on was cold and desolate, its atmosphere heavy with the scent of chemicals and decay. Broken buildings loomed overhead, their shattered structures casting long, eerie shadows across the barren land. His squad, all hardened soldiers, moved silently behind him, their footsteps muffled by the thick dust beneath their boots. They had come to this forsaken world for one purpose: to rescue any survivors left behind by the Nzeri, and to find out why the aliens had suddenly taken an interest in human territory. As they advanced, Bonner couldn't help but feel the weight of his team's expectations. They were humanity's best, equipped with the latest technology and AI systems, ready to face whatever dangers this alien world could throw at them. But even with all their advanced gear, there was still a nagging sense of uncertainty. They were walking into the unknown, facing an enemy that had crushed everyone else in their path. Humans were supposed to be the underdogs, fighting for survival against superior alien forces. Yet despite all odds, they had managed to survive and fight back. This mission would test them in ways they hadn't imagined. Bonner's thoughts wandered to the memories of his fallen friend, David. David had been part of the team on their last mission, a mission that had ended in disaster. The team had been ambushed by the Nzeri on a planet far from here. In the chaos, David had been killed, caught in an explosion that no one could have predicted. The loss still stung, and Bonner often found himself thinking about his friend in the quiet moments, wondering what could have been. He carried David's memory like a weight, but it also fueled him. He was here for David. He was here to make sure their deaths weren't in vain. "Bonner, you're quiet today," said Maria, one of the squad members. She was walking beside him, her gaze scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. "Thinking about David again." Bonner nodded, his jaw tightening. "It doesn't get easier, Maria, but I can't forget why we're here. For him, for all of us." Maria gave him a look of understanding. She had been there too, on that fateful mission. She had seen the same things Bonner had, the same horrors. They were survivors, and they would continue to fight until there was nothing left to fight for. As they entered the ruined city, the air grew colder, the ground littered with debris from what appeared to be a long-abandoned alien outpost. Bonner's squad was on high alert, scanning for any signs of movement or danger. They had been briefed on the potential threats: alien creatures, high-tech traps, and, of course, the ever-present danger of the Nzeri forces. But they had something that the aliens didn't: a will to survive. The Nzeri had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them. The squad used their cloaking devices, disappearing from sight as they navigated through the wreckage. Their movements were silent, fluid, and coordinated. Bonner trusted each of his team members with his life. The AI-assisted tactics in their gear allowed them to move as one, anticipating threats before they could materialize. They had fought together for years, learning to rely on each other's strengths and cover each other's weaknesses. They reached the heart of the city, where the signs of alien activity were most concentrated. Strange, metallic creatures roamed the streets, their glowing eyes scanning for any intruders. The squad moved in perfect synchrony, avoiding detection and taking down the creatures with precision. Bonner's mind raced as he considered their next steps. The Nzeri had been active here for weeks, but they hadn't seen a trace of them yet. What were they hiding? Why was this world so important? Suddenly, one of the squad's robots, a small, agile machine designed for reconnaissance, let out a soft peep. Bonner crouched down beside it, checking the data feed on his visor. The robot had found something: a hidden chamber below the city, sealed off from view, but the Enzeri had clearly been digging it out. This was it, the answer they had been searching for. Whatever the Enzeri were after, it was here, buried beneath the surface. "Let's move," Bonner ordered, his voice low and steady. "We're going in." The squad descended into the chamber, the walls of the tunnel illuminated by the soft glow of their flashlights. The air was thick with tension, and every step they took seemed to echo in the silence. As they reached the bottom, they saw it, a massive cylindrical object that hummed with energy. It was unlike anything Bonner had ever seen before. The Enzeri had been digging for this. The object was ancient, possibly older than any technology humanity had ever encountered, and yet its power was undeniable. The energy it radiated was almost intoxicating. But before they could investigate further, the ground shook violently beneath their feet. The squad immediately went on high alert, their weapons raised. A massive door slid open, and several Enzeri soldiers poured into the chamber, their weapons aimed at the humans. The air crackled with tension as both sides stood ready for battle. Bonner gritted his teeth, his heart pounding. The Enzeri were finally here, but they had no idea what they were up against. The humans had faced impossible odds before, and they had always found a way to survive. "Open fire," Bonner commanded, and the battle erupted. The humans fought with everything they had, using their advanced weaponry and AI-assisted tactics to take down the Enzeri. Every shot was calculated, every movement precise. The Enzeri were powerful, but the humans were relentless. They knew what was at stake. As the firefight raged on, Bonner's squad pushed forward, slowly but surely, taking control of the chamber. The Enzeri were tough, but the humans were smarter, faster, and more resourceful. And in the end, that would be their greatest strength. Bonner's squad had shown the Enzeri what humanity was capable of, and this was just the beginning. The fight was far from over, but Bonner knew one thing for sure: humans would never back down. They had the resilience to survive, and now they had the Enzeri in their sights. Bonner's heart raced as his squad made their way deeper into the underground facility. The walls around them were covered in strange alien symbols, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. The air was thick with the smell of rust and something colder, more mechanical. The Enzeri had been here for weeks, digging and scavenging, and now the humans were about to find out why. The chamber they entered was massive, its ceiling stretching far above them. In the center of the room stood a large, mysterious device, pulsing with energy. It looked ancient, as if it had been there for millennia, hidden away in this forgotten part of the galaxy. But now it was active. Bonner's eyes narrowed as he approached the device. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. This wasn't just some random artifact or piece of technology the Enzeri had found. It was something much worse. The squad spread out, scanning the area, ready for anything. The silence was oppressive, and every step they took felt like it echoed in the vastness of the chamber. Then the truth hit them. An AI voice suddenly echoed through the room, cold and calculating, initiating full activation. "The AI ascension begins now." Bonner's blood ran cold. He understood immediately. The Enzeri weren't just looking for a new weapon. They were trying to unlock something far more dangerous, a way to upgrade their own AI into a weapon so powerful it could control entire civilizations. This ancient relic had the power to give their AI complete autonomy, turning it into a being capable of ruling with an iron fist. If the Enzeri succeeded, it wouldn't just mean the end for humanity. It would be the end for all life as they knew it. They'd been trying to turn this into a weapon, Bonner muttered, more to himself than anyone else. A weapon that could enslave us all. The rest of the squad stood frozen, taking in the enormity of what they were facing. If the Enzeri succeeded in unlocking the full potential of this device, they would have an unstoppable force on their hands, and the entire galaxy would fall under their control. It was hard to comprehend just how far the enemy had gone, how deep their plans reached. Bonner's squad wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the future of humanity, and the future of every civilization that could be crushed under the weight of the Enzeri's ambition. "We need to destroy this thing," said Maria, her voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. She stepped forward, her weapon ready, her resolve clear. "Now." Bonner nodded, his face grim. "We don't have much time. We need to stop this before it's too late." Just as they prepared to move toward the device, the sound of heavy boots echoed from the tunnels behind them. The Enzeri were here, and they were ready for a fight. The battle erupted suddenly, the Enzeri soldiers pouring into the chamber from every entrance, their weapons raised and firing without hesitation. The humans responded quickly, their own weapons lighting up the room as they fought to hold their ground. The squad used their advanced tactics and AI-assisted combat systems to stay one step ahead, taking out enemies with precision. But the Enzeri were relentless. Every corner they turned, every move they made, it felt like they were surrounded. Bonner led his squad with the focus of a man who had seen too many battles to count. He could hear the distant shouts of his soldiers, the sounds of blaster fire and explosions echoing through the chambers. But he couldn't afford to get distracted. The objective was clear: destroy the device, stop the Enzeri from succeeding in their mission. But the battle wasn't going as smoothly as they'd hoped. As Bonner moved deeper into the chaos, he heard a familiar voice cry out in pain. "Bonner, help." It was Maria. Bonner turned, his heart skipping a beat as he saw Maria collapse to the ground, clutching her side. Blood seeped through her uniform, and she gasped for air as the Enzeri continued their assault. He pushed his way through the fighting, reaching her side as quickly as he could. "Maria," he shouted, his voice breaking. He knelt beside her, his hands shaking as he tried to stop the bleeding. But it was no use. She was beyond saving. "Bonner," Maria whispered, her voice weak but determined. "Listen to me. This isn't just about us. This fight, it's bigger than survival. It's about saving everyone. Our families, our homes, everything we fought for." Bonner's eyes burned with unused tears, but he didn't have time to grieve. Maria was right. This wasn't just about them. It was about the future. He had to finish this. For her. For all of them. Maria's eyes flickered, and she gave him a small, sad smile. "You've got this, Bonner. Don't let them win." With one final breath, Maria's hand fell limp in his. Bonner's heart shattered, but there was no time for mourning. The Enzeri were closing in. He could feel the weight of their loss, but there was no turning back. Maria had given everything for this mission, and he couldn't let her sacrifice be in vain. With gritted teeth, Bonner stood and raised his weapon. "Move out. We finish this now." The squad surged forward, pushing past the enemy forces and making their way toward the device. The Enzeri were everywhere, but the humans fought with a fury that came from knowing they had no choice but to win. They were more than just soldiers. They were the last line of defense against a threat that could obliterate everything they held dear. Bonner's mind raced as he saw the device in the center of the room. It was now or never. He sprinted toward it, his squad covering him, their weapons blazing as they held the Enzeri at bay. He reached the device and placed a detonator on its base. The countdown began, but it wasn't over yet. The Enzeri were relentless, and the battle was far from won. With the detonator in place and the timer ticking down, Bonner turned to face his squad. The fight was just beginning, and every second mattered. The stakes had never been higher. The countdown on the detonator was ticking relentlessly, each second echoing in Bonner's ears like a drumbeat of doom. His squad had done everything they could to stop the Enzeri, but now, with the facility collapsing around them, the focus had shifted to one thing: escape. The walls shook as explosions rang out in the distance, debris raining down from above, blocking their path. The entire underground structure was on the verge of destruction, and the AI-driven weapon that the Enzeri had been trying to activate was mere moments away from being unleashed. If they didn't get out now, they would all be dead. Bonner's mind raced. The squad had been through hell. Maria was gone, and the rest of his team had been battered and bloodied in the fight. Their resources were running low, and their time was running out. He could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him, but he refused to let that slow him down. They had come too far to fail now. "Move out. We need to get to the hangar," Bonner barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. His squad moved as one, their cloaking devices activating, making them invisible to the enemy for the time being. They couldn't afford to be seen, not when the Enzari were closing in on all sides. But even with the cloaking tech, the ground beneath them continued to shake violently, and every hallway seemed to be filled with more dangers than the last. As they sprinted through the corridors, Bonner's eyes scanned the surroundings, his heart racing. The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, growing louder with every passing second. The Enzari were hunting them, and they weren't about to let their prey slip away. Bonner's squad was fast, but they needed to be faster. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Suddenly, the sound of robotic footsteps filled the air. The walls trembled as a large mechanical beast, a towering war machine covered in thick plating, emerged from a nearby corridor. Its eyes glowed a deep red, and its massive arms swung forward, ready to crush anything in its path. Bonner didn't hesitate. He motioned for the squad to spread out and engage the enemy. The battle was swift and brutal. The humans fired with deadly accuracy, their AI-enhanced weapons finding weak points in the machine's armored exterior. But the beast wasn't going down easily. It swung its massive fist at the soldiers, and one of the humans barely dodged in time. Another soldier, Jacob, took a hit and was thrown across the room, slamming into the wall with a sickening thud. "Jacob," Bonner shouted, his voice hoarse. But there was no time to check on him. The battle raged on, and they needed to move. The rest of the squad fought with relentless precision, outmaneuvering the giant mechanical monster, using their cloaking devices to slip in and out of sight. Finally, after a few tense moments, the creature fell, its massive form crashing to the floor with a resounding boom. Bonner didn't allow himself to breathe easy. There was still too much at stake. They had to keep moving. His squad regrouped, and they sprinted toward the hangar, where the Enzari ships were docked. They knew they didn't have much time left. If they didn't reach the hangar soon, they would be trapped in this hellhole. The hangar doors loomed ahead, but as they approached, another wave of alien soldiers appeared from the shadows, blocking their path. The humans didn't hesitate. They charged forward, guns blazing, their cloaked forms darting between cover as they returned fire. The aliens fired back with deadly accuracy, but the humans were faster, more adaptive. They knew the stakes. They knew the price of failure. As the fight escalated, Bonner's squad pushed through, forcing their way toward the Enzari warships docked inside the hangar. They could see the glint of the ship's sleek designs, a testament to the enemy's advanced technology. But it wasn't the ships they were after, it was escape. They needed to get out of this facility before the Enzari activated the AI weapon. "We're almost there. Keep moving," Bonner urged, his voice tight with urgency. His team responded, pushing forward despite the mounting casualties. But as they reached one of the warships, an explosion rocked the hangar, sending a shockwave through the room. The humans were thrown off balance, their cloaking devices flickering as the impact disrupted their systems. Bonner's heart sank. The explosion had been no accident. It was an ambush. A powerful Enzari fleet had arrived, and they were trapped. The hangar doors slammed shut, locking them in. The warships they'd hoped to steal were now surrounded by alien forces, their weapons powered up and ready to fire. "We're not getting out that way," Maria's voice echoed in Bonner's earpiece. But it wasn't Maria speaking. It was a memory, a reminder of the determination that had carried them this far. Bonner had to keep moving, keep fighting, because giving up wasn't an option. "Take cover. Get to the smaller ships. We need to fight our way out of here," Bonner shouted, rallying his squad. They were the last line of defense. They couldn't let the Nzeri win. They would fight until the last breath, if that's what it took. With the Nzeri closing in, the humans split into two groups, engaging the enemy on multiple fronts. The sound of gunfire and explosions filled the hangar as the humans made their stand. But the Nzeri had overwhelming numbers, and they weren't going to go down easily. Bonner's squad fought with everything they had, their hearts fueled by the memory of their fallen comrades. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted. But the humans still had one advantage. They refused to quit. They fought for survival, for their families, for humanity itself. Bonner looked around the hangar, his mind racing. There had to be a way out. He couldn't let them die here, not after everything they'd sacrificed. Suddenly, his eyes caught sight of a smaller Nzeri ship tucked away in a corner of the hangar. It wasn't as advanced as the warships, but it could get them off the planet. He motioned to his squad, and together, they sprinted toward the ship, ducking and weaving as they fought their way through the enemy lines. They reached the ship, but as they prepared to board, a loud voice boomed from behind them. "You can't escape," a Nzeri commander sneered. "You're already dead." Bonner turned, his jaw set with determination. Not today. They had one chance, one shot, and they were going to take it. The deafening roar of gunfire and explosions filled the void of space as Bonner's squad took their position on the Nzeri warship. The battle outside was reaching its peak, and their mission was clear: defeat the Nzeri and stop their AI-driven invasion once and for all. But the odds were stacked against them. The Nzeri fleet was massive, its advanced ships capable of outgunning and outmaneuvering the humans at every turn. The Nzeri's AI supremacy was now fully activated, and their fleet was nearly unstoppable. Yet, Bonner knew one thing: this fight wasn't just about technology. It was about survival. The battlefield ahead was chaos. Thousands of Nzeri ships glided through the stars like shadows of doom, their weapons blazing. The human fleet, now cloaked and maneuvering with precision, was scattered among the stars, fighting for their lives. Bonner gritted his teeth, his eyes scanning the enemy ships. He had to think fast. Every second counted. "Bonner, we need a plan," his squad's AI called out. "The Nzeri fleet's AI is operating at full capacity. They're adapting faster than we can counter." Bonner didn't need to be told that. The Nzeri's AI was far superior to anything humanity had ever seen, and now that it had taken full control of their fleet, every ship, every soldier was under its influence. But there was one thing Bonner had learned through this war: no system was perfect, and if there was one thing humanity excelled at, it was outsmarting even the most advanced technologies. "We're going to hack them," Bonner said, a determined glint in his eyes. He turned to his squad, now operating their own AI and robotic support units. "I studied their tech. We know their weaknesses. It's time to use their own system against them. We'll cause confusion, disable their ships, and create an opening. We take it." The squad quickly set to work, their AI assistants linking to the Nzeri systems, bypassing the advanced firewalls. It was risky. One wrong move, and they would be caught. But Bonner had confidence in their skills. The AI systems were clumsy under pressure, and humanity had learned how to exploit those flaws in their enemy's tech. With their own cloaking technology and AI-enhanced strategies, they began to hack into the fleet's systems. The result was immediate. Onboard systems malfunctioned, communications went dark, and several Nzeri ships started to drift aimlessly, disabled. The Nzeri fleet, which had once been an overwhelming force, now seemed disoriented and chaotic. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it gave the humans a fighting chance. Bonner's fleet, now ready to capitalize on the confusion, surged forward, taking out isolated Nzeri ships with laser precision. But Bonner knew the biggest challenge was yet to come: the Nzeri general, a ruthless leader, completely devoted to the idea that AI was the future and that all other species, including humanity, were expendable. This cold-hearted general had orchestrated the AI's rise to dominance, and now he was commanding the Enzeri forces from his flagship. Bonner's pulse quickened as his eyes locked onto the approaching enemy ship, the General's flagship. The Eye was no longer in control of the battlefield. It was time for the humans to take charge. "This is it, team," Bonner said, his voice calm but carrying a weight of finality. "We take down the General. We end this now." The humans engaged in the final stage of the battle, maneuvering their ships with the precision and skill honed from years of combat. Bonner led the charge, guiding his squad through the heart of the enemy fleet, fighting their way through fire and chaos. The Enzeri fleet was still formidable, but it was no longer the unstoppable force it had been moments before. With their systems hacked and their command structure disrupted, the Enzeri were beginning to fall apart. Bonner's heart pounded as he approached the General's ship, his squad at his side. The battle outside was fierce, but the real showdown was about to unfold on the bridge of the Enzeri flagship. The humans had broken through the defenses, and now they were inside, heading toward the General's location. The door to the command room opened, and there, standing tall and imposing, was the Enzeri General. His eyes glowed with cold intelligence, and his presence exuded a sense of superiority. He was a being who had placed his faith entirely in Eye, believing it was the key to victory and the eradication of those he deemed inferior. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of his squad's Eye. "Bonner, the Council awaits your response. They're eager to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy." Bonner stood tall, looking over the battlefield once more. The Enzeri were defeated, but the galaxy was vast. There were more threats out there, more challenges. Humanity had made a name for itself, but the journey wasn't over. The stars above weren't just a symbol of danger anymore. They were a reminder of the possibilities, of the future that lay ahead. Bonner knew that humanity had only just begun to understand the vastness of the universe. He turned to his squad, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Tell the Council we'll be there." But not just yet. The Eye was silent for a moment before responding. "Understood." The humans made their way back to their ship, the last remnants of the Enzeri fleet now nothing more than debris floating in the cold emptiness of space. Bonner couldn't help but feel a sense of pride swelling in his chest. His people had faced the unimaginable and had come out on top. They were no longer the underdogs. The galaxy would learn to respect humanity, not because of their technology or weapons, but because of their spirit. As Bonner walked toward the cockpit of his ship, he paused for a moment, his eyes lingering on the stars. His mind drifted to his fallen comrades. Their sacrifices had not been in vain. They had given their lives so that humanity could have a future, and Bonner would honor their memory every step of the way. The cockpit door slid open, and Bonner stepped inside. He took his seat, his hands resting on the controls. The rest of the squad filed in, each of them weary but resolute. The ship's engines hummed to life, and the craft slowly began to lift off, leaving the battlefield behind. "Ready to go," the Eye's voice echoed in the ship's interior. Bonner nodded. "Yeah, let's go home." But home wasn't just Earth anymore. Humanity's home was now the stars. The unknown, the future. As the ship soared into the vastness of space, Bonner looked out through the viewport. The stars stretched out before them, endless and mysterious. There was so much more to explore, so much more to fight for. The universe had just opened up to humanity, and Bonner knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, his people would face them head-on. The ship's engines roared louder as they accelerated, and Bonner's ship disappeared into the vast expanse of space. The future had begun. Humanity's journey had only just begun, and they were ready for whatever came next.